I kind of did want to shift gears to talk about your home a little bit more. If you're comfortable with
Yes, sir.
this subject,
Let's do it.
there was recently like a tragedy
Yeah.
that's been going on.
hmm
Has it been snuffed out now in Los
I mean,
Angeles?
it's contained, but there's
It's
still
contained.
consequences.
Yeah, the consequences are still there, and there's a lot of rebuilding that needs to be done, and there's going to be people who are going to have to that have been affected and are like recovering.
Yeah. For
Um,
a long time.
yeah, and that includes like you and your family
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Um, I remember you posted something that was so poignant,
Thank you.
and it blew my mind.
Stop.
And I messaged you, and I sent like
Yeah.
3 voice memos
I was surprised.
talking about how impactful it was on
Thank
me.
you.
And I couldn't find it
Oh.
because it was a story post.
Yeah.
But being away from your family while something like that has happened,
Yeah.
speaking with your parents,
hmm
and just the general efforts, because that's just going to be like a fucking pulse.
Yeah.
Can you describe your experience? How has that been for you, and are you okay?
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay. I'm mostly just, I don't know, wishing to be home and really, really, like, I don't know, wanting to hug everybody who's been impacted. And I know so many people close to me. I've honestly stopped thinking about it. And, like, I am upset that I have that privilege. The experience of it was so weird, but also so familiar because it was weird because I had just been home. Like, I just came back. I was there for winter break, and then I came back here for the start of the term, and it feels like 2 days, and I was seeing images of, like, LA on fire, and my dad was sending me photos of, like, JPL, which was one of his first jobs, and the place we just hiked. And I was sitting in class, I remember I was in econ, and I was like, after I had the initial of, like, how does this impact me and my family, of, like, oh my God, there are other people living in Los Angeles, and I just started texting people who I never really talked to before, or, like, a lot of teachers I got really close with, so I had their numbers, and I was just, like, getting those texts back in econ. I started crying. It was so, like, the dissonance of, like, what my body and brain was going through with the normalcy of the outside was really, really weird. I always think about this one scene in Lady Bird where Saoirse Ronan's laying on this couch. She's, like, on her stomach, and it's just, like, her head is sideways staring at this older TV, and it's just, like, news of, like, post 9/11. And she's just, like, paralyzed on this couch, and all she can do is watch. And that's how, like, so many recent, to me, what I describe as tragedies have felt in my life. Of, first of all, the first time it happened, I think in my, like, conscious experience was, like, Ukraine. And that was really weird to go through because it was, I think, the closest thing that ever happened to me related to my identity and my family that we had to figure out together, but also individually. I remember I spoke at my high school to the whole school. I started crying in front of the whole school. And I was like, okay, this is horrible. I mean, horrible, it doesn't describe it. We did things, we, like, housed people, we went to protests, but also you're away. And I was constantly aware of, like, I can't do anything that I think is productive, right? And then October 7th happened. And I was like, wow, this is different, but it feels so similar. Of, like, I'm so far away, I can't do anything. And this is related to me. And that one also felt more difficult because I had to, for the first time, I think, really reflect on my relationship with Israel. And I never really talked about it in high school. I only here started talking about it, of, like, it's so weird. Weird is, like, my rabbi says weird is an understatement. But, like,
There's a dissonance.
yeah, but between, it's like, I have an aunt who lives in Israel. And, like, obviously I want her to be safe, but at the same time, the way Israel is acting is absolutely atrocious. And it's so hard for me to balance those two, what seems to me like different ideas. Like, it's like a paradox. They're not supposed to exist together. And so that's why I was always scared to share that, like, oh yeah, like, I have family in Israel. Because I was so scared of, like, the immediate, like, oh, so you're a Zionist. Oh, so, like, you're a Zionist, like, blah, blah. Like, I was scared of that. And I realized, like, okay, these two things exist at the same time. And if I'm talking to people who I feel comfortable talking to, I don't care if they have a different opinion, but if they're open-minded enough, they will hear out both sides.
Yeah.
And that's all I wanted. So October 7th happened. Obviously, I was in America. Then I was in Canada, and the election happened. And that was another loss for me because I realized that I didn't know the country I thought I knew. Just because I thought it was going to be a close call. And the fact that it wasn't really surprised me. And then the fact that I wasn't back home to, like, grieve with my family members and my friends who I know are going to be so affected by this, and have been already so affected by this new administration. I just remember walking to the dining hall, and I just sat with, like, my Canadian friends. And again, that the difference. And then LA happened. And I'm the only person that I know from LA. Like, I know someone from nearby, and I asked her, and she's like, oh, yeah, fine. And I was really, like, it's just like, how the fuck does this keep happening? And I remember I went to talk to my rabbi about it, and she called it ambiguous loss, which was, I felt, a really poignant way to describe what I was feeling. I mean, it wasn't her term, but, like...
What? Can you explain that term a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I Googled it after, and it's usually for some... The examples that Google gave me were, like, if you don't know if someone has passed, like, in a war or an event, or if you're physically really far away, if you know someone's passed but you don't have any access to their remains or stuff like that, where it's like, it's not like, I know you and you have died. That's what we think about, like, loss and grief. But there's, what I've experienced is, like, I wrote this journal entry one day. I was like, I'm just carrying so much grief in my body for things that I do not think I immediately think of as grief. Like, all those things I mentioned before, I grieve for, like, everything that happened during COVID and, like, how it impacted myself and my body. And I grieve a lot of, I mean, going back to bodily autonomy, something I didn't mention was, like, I struggle a lot with chronic pain and chronic fatigue. And so that struggle feels like I'm grieving a body that used to be able. And, like, there are all these things that are just, and I think we all have that. We all have those just, like, events on events and events that become so chronic or so subliminal, but they're still with us. And my rabbi said the other day of, like, she hates the term "don't cry over spilled milk." She was like, it's never about the milk. It's about the thing that happened 4 years ago that, like, the milk just sparked it. And, like, yeah. So the LA fires, I really went on a tangent there, didn't I? But it was that same experience of, like, the familiarity of it, but also so different, because I don't think I've ever had a tragedy so close to home. Like, literally, it was home. All the other ones were, like, very far away. But now, the difference is I'm far away. And it really made me want to be back there really badly, because I just needed my body to be doing stuff. Like, I just needed that, honestly, like, fucking manual labor and that feeling of productivity. And I really missed, like, the places that I first started doing conservation work were, like, in the mountains, in the chaparral, and the trail that I, like, helped build with my internship, it burned down. And I remember a couple of weeks ago, I, like, reapplied for that internship, and I wrote my cover letter. I was like, I really, like, these places have taught me everything I know. It's like this traditional ecological knowledge that, like, I haven't gotten here at all, or in any other place, of just walking and hiking with someone who knows so much and just telling me the names of these plants, telling me how to use them. And now it's gone. I know the plants will come back, but it's like, I want to be there and I want to help in some way. And I can't right now. I just have to keep doing this. Yeah. Keep doing my school. And that's when it's hard to keep that get-to attitude, because it's just a different situation. Because it's hard to keep my mind in this normalcy when there's so much else going on.
There's so much other...
Yeah.
That's, thank you for being so open to
My
talk about
pleasure.
that.
That was
Um,
a long list.
no, but I think it did kind of in you sharing that. You get a sense of how the fire, because
Mhm.
that is your home,
Yeah.
has brings in all these other feelings surrounding everything related to your
Yeah.
identity, um, and like they're all interrelated, they're all
Mhm.
interconnected. Um, and I'm thank you for being open enough to share that,
Thank you
because
for letting me
that's
share it.
that's that was, yeah, that was like, that was very open. It brought it, like, again, fuck, I'm gonna like gonna send you 5 more voice notes, like, um